Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Review Corner, where my name is Kevin. How you guys doing today? I will be reviewing the one thing I've been wanting to review since I started this podcast. It's called Bioshock, Burial at Sea, Part 1. Part 1 always intrigued me. The whole thing about Bioshock always intrigued me with its massive collection of mystery and wonder and big daddies and handymen and all that crazy stuff. But Burial at Sea is very interesting to me because you go back to Rapture from the first Bioshock. I've always liked the first Bioshock. The storyline was intricate, the mysteries were entailing, and the twist ending was something an M. Night Shyamalan movie would only be proud of. But unfortunately, we always cannot have what we want. But Burial at Sea had some ups and downs, and I'm going to review that for you today. Let's see. The best way to describe this is to think about, if anyone of you played Bioshock Infinite, you automatically know at the end of the game you actually go back to Rapture. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is also going to be a major spoiler for the video and the game itself. So, if you haven't played Bioshock Infinite or Bioshock at all, or want to get into it, please play the games. They're kind of long, about 15 to 20 hours each. Well, it's sad to say, because that video games back in the day were that long. But hey, go play them. Honestly, go play them. So, at the end of Bioshock 1, or I should say Bioshock Infinite, you actually find out later on that Elizabeth kills Comstock, because Comstock is actually Booker, and Booker is actually Comstock. They're one and the same in different realities and then in their own. Which makes it really interesting, the fact that pretty much your huge twist of the game is pretty much your main character is also your main villain. So, that being said, also Elizabeth has the power to travel between a million worlds, where all the stars in the skies are lighthouses that are portals to different worlds, and she's going to travel to each and every one of them to destroy Comstock. It's the only way. So, Burial at Sea starts off pretty much in the office of Booker DeWitt, detective agency in Rapture. This is the fall, right before the fall of Rapture. Completely different timeline, but still in Rapture itself, where as she comes walking in to find Booker, she sees Booker's having some sort of a dream of memory of Infinite. Well, he wakes up looking to find out what she wants. She says that she's searching for a dead girl named Sally. Now, when looking down, you notice you have full control of the character now. You're looking around. I looked at the whole area. You notice that Booker is got gambling stubs, bottles. Pretty much he's the same Booker as he was before. A gambling man, a drunk, someone who wants to forget or just doesn't care about his life. So once she pretty much convinces you to take on the job, you walk outside, you look around, you notice that, it's Rapture. It's glorious Rapture, mind you. A lot better than when it was before the fall. Obviously, people are walking around like normal. You actually get to see little sisters in white masks, because their faces are so horrifying that you cannot see them, apparently. Which obviously makes no sense. You do more walking around, you notice the area and stuff, and you go and look, and then you notice something very interesting. You see outside of the thing of Rapture, you see big daddies doing construction work, and all of them people are going, "Oh my God, it's a big daddy. Oh no, don't worry about them. They'll be fine. They're not going to hurt you." It was really interesting to see a big daddy actually doing manual labor of sorts, considering that their love of little sisters taking care of it. But then again, you really don't get too much information about big daddies until after the fall of Rapture, and you see why they love little sisters so much is their use of Adam and their love for that. But Booker, on the other hand, has a nice conversation with Elizabeth, and he knows why Sally went missing, and he won't exactly explain why, but after he does that, he has a strange, faint memory of Infinite, and you're kind of wondering yourself, why exactly is he having these things? And you have a couple of interesting plot points and stuff. Then you end up walking around more and end up going into a bar looking for more information, because Elizabeth knows somebody about where to find her. And then the thing that really caught my eye about that is when you walk into it, the first thing you notice is there's a bartender who's a splicer. It can do that cool instant warp move that all the cool splicers could do. I was like, whoa, that's a really cool feature. Normal people too. They weren't crazy yet, all this crazy stuff. But Booker then proceeds to ask her, why exactly are you looking for this girl? And she explains to herself that she needs to repay a debt to a man. Now, automatically, before the game even finishes, I'm going to let you know, I have my suspicions about this Elizabeth. I figured it was a completely different Elizabeth compared to it, but the more I actually listened to her, the more it sounded like she was the Elizabeth from Infinite, which would make sense. She has the ability to travel between all dimensions and every world among worlds. So why wouldn't she be the one traveling around trying to kill Comstock or even try to stop Booker? Or maybe this is completely different and it's just something that you don't understand. So they actually end up going to look for someone called Cohen, which if you guys played Bioshock 1, you would know exactly who that is. And he's having a special party. Only you can't get in there until you find a special mask. And my phone is ringing. Fantastic. Yes. But you end up looking for a mask. You end up going through 3 department stores, searching for the special mask by these 3 people. Elizabeth ends up distracting them with her feminine wiles and beauty, and strange questions and such. And then you end up finding the mask, getting into Cohen's place, which is just crazy to say the least. Now this is the 1960s, I want to say. So it's in that time of era where everything's got a little weird, and Cohen was a little weird itself. When you finally meet him, it's everything as you expected, since you really didn't get to see him too much in Bioshock 1. He's exactly how I predicted, except the really creepy thing is that he's painting with these people who are strapped to electrical plates. And if he doesn't like the way they're dancing, he kills them by electric shocks. Which was kind of how I saw him, honestly. He was that much of a weirdo. So I was like, okay. But when Cohen sees Elizabeth, the first thing he says to her is something that was very, really peculiar to me, and I was a little thrown back by what he said, but at the same time, it goes back to Infinite. He says, he speaks to Elizabeth as a songbird, which, as you already know, in Infinite, the songbird was the guardian of Elizabeth itself, pretty much determined to make sure that she stays where she was, which I was kind of like, okay. But then he looks over to Booker and says that she will take him places. And he really emphasized on the places section, which again made me really think this is the same Elizabeth that has the ability to go through worlds and stuff. But so he proceeds to pretty much say, I know where Sally is, and I can take you to her as long as you dance for me. So he has the 2 dance for them on the electric plate. And as they're talking, they talk more about Sally and such, and eventually Cohen gets upset with them because they're not paying attention to him, and he proceeds to electrocute her. Which, well, not her, but electrocutes both of them, which they pass out. And now you're taken down to the Fontaine department, where it's now a prison, where supposedly Sally is being held. So you go down there, and that's where the game's combat system comes in. It's exactly the same as Bioshock Infinite's combat. You don't have the same powers as you did in Bioshock 1. You actually have the same powers as you do in Bioshock Infinite, which really kind of made me upset. I figured, out of all the powers, you would have had the same powers as Bioshock 1, like the torch feature, but you still have the Devil's Kiss. You don't have Murder of Crows, which was by far my favorite power out of all of them in Bioshock Infinite. Excuse me. So you pretty much now are roaming around trying to find a way to get Sally, which you're fighting off the many different crazy splicers. Finally, you have the hand cannon to start. You do get other weapons. You get the machine gun and the carbine, or carbine. I call it the carbine, thanks to good old Halo days. But the one thing that really caught my eye was you actually end up getting stuck at a certain point. You have to find something called an air grabber, which the kids use just to attach to the hooks and stuff. But when you grab it, Booker picks it up. He says, "Oh, an air grabber. These are great for the kids." And she goes, "Air grabber? I thought it was called a sky hook." And he said, no, these are called air grabbers. And the first thing she says is, oh, constants and variables. Now, by her saying that, I automatically assume this was the same Elizabeth you see in the first Bioshock Infinite. The same Elizabeth that is doing what she supposedly is doing. Which, again, really made me wonder, is this the same one, or is this all Elizabeth now on a rampage to destroy all the Comstocks of the world? Or is this completely, again, different world? But then she asks him a couple of questions, like, when did you arrive? And he proceeded to say, oh, I arrived in 1948. No, 1949. And he couldn't exactly remember. But after that, he suddenly pertained a bloody nose. The same way, again, he did it in Bioshock Infinite, which made me think maybe this is the Booker. But it's kind of strange how he was still getting images from Bioshock Infinite as the same Booker. So, you roam around trying to find the Old Man Winter power, which is the power that's given to you to help cross a bridge that was been destroyed by the splicers and stuff. You proceed to fight an Old Man Winter splicer, which is, I guess, a mini-boss of sorts. He wasn't exactly that powerful. I mean, you get other crazy stuff like pertain to the flame power. You can set traps, and you also get the electrical power, and I believe one more power, but I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's pretty good. Later on, you get down to the department section, the real department section, and you actually find Sally. She's hanging in the little vents just like the little sisters would be, and Elizabeth says we need to flush her out. And the best way to do it is to overheat the vents. Now, Booker, of course, doesn't want to do this because he doesn't want to kill her, but she says this is the only way to get her out. So you proceed to do this little mission of overheating the vents by closing them and then turning up the heat to maximum so you can flush her out. Once you do that, you get to your final vent, and then you go down in the heating section, and then you overheat it. She starts to freak out, screaming in terror and pain, which Booker doesn't like because he thinks of Sally as his daughter, pretty much. So when you finally get to the point where you have to pull her out, she proceeds to say no, and you don't see her face, and finally when you do, you know she's been turned into a little sister. You don't know why. So as she does, she screams the two deadliest words in all of Bioshock 1, and she screams out for Mr. Bubbles. And you proceed to fight a Big Daddy. Now, this Big Daddy is kind of like the main boss of the game. I mean, now at this point, I've pretty much gone through the entire game. This game is very, very short, mind you. Very short. You could probably beat it in an hour if you play constantly, maybe 2.5 to 3 hours if you look for everything. And I do mean everything, and that's the littlest stuff too. So you fight Mr. Bubbles, Big Daddy, and you kill him. And as soon as you kill him, she pertains to start crying about Mr. Bubbles dying, like all of them little sisters did whenever they died. So pretty much you walk back to where Sally was, and you try and grab her, and she pretty much is saying she doesn't want to go, and he proceeds to give her a little doll head. Just a little doll head, and he wants her to take her home, and she refuses at one point. And then he has a memory from Bioshock Infinite that might have been an alternate reality memory. I don't even know. You see a picture of yourself holding a baby against an actual baby of Anna DeWitt, Booker DeWitt's daughter, his real daughter. But you're also looking at Booker, so you're looking at yourself, which made it really, really odd. And then you're pulling up pretty much a tug-of-war between the Booker and you, while the twins, I don't remember their official names right now, but the twins who created the portals, and Elizabeth herself, from dressed up in Bioshock Infinite clothes, saying that he needs to let go, or else she will die. And as the portal begins to close, the Booker from Infinite pulls her through, but actually the portal closes on her head, killing her, decapitating her in a way, showing the same doll head that he gave Anna, just a doll head of a decapitated doll. Now, in the original Bioshock Infinite, only her pinky was cut off. Just her pinky. Which made you really wonder how many Elizabeths, or I should say not Elizabeths, how many Annas were killed off. Or not killed off. Or how many pieces were actually decapitated off her. We don't even know. But after that, you begin to have a conversation with Elizabeth, who now claims him to be Comstock, the Comstock. You have an image of him over a baptism container, just showing images of him as Comstock. So I have a theory on this, and I'll get to you at the end of the review about it. So then you see the twins talking about how this Comstock always wanted to get what he wanted, no matter what the cost, saying that pretty much since he couldn't deal with the death of his daughter Anna, he asked the twins to send him to another place where there is no Anna, which was the Rapture that we're at in this day. Where then I guess he finds a girl named Sally and falls in love with her and pretends to be his daughter. So with that, he looks at Elizabeth and apologizes to her for everything that he's done because his memories have come back, and she proceeds to say, "You're not sorry, and you will pay for what you did." And as soon as you do, the screen goes a little fuzzy, and you end up looking down, and then there you go. You now have a drill in your stomach by the Big Daddy. And as he pulls the drill out, you fall to the ground. Elizabeth, covered in blood, just looks at you and just says, "End of episode 1." Now, like I said, this is a very, very short game, but a fun game. I had people tell me this game was terrible and that the storyline made no sense. Well, it doesn't have to make sense to you. It's a different version of Rapture or the same version of Rapture. We don't know. According to Elizabeth in Bioshock Infinite, there are a million worlds, which means there could be a million Raptures. Who even knows? It's ridiculous to even comprehend this fact. The one thing that didn't make any sense to me was a person told me this, and I had to talk to him about it, and I don't believe their theory on it, is that you were always Comstock. Well, of course you were always Comstock, but you were originally Booker DeWitt, turned into Comstock. And that's why, in the middle of the game, he keeps talking to her, and she keeps always says, "Mr. DeWitt, Mr. DeWitt." And she says, I will never call you Booker. I will always call you Mr. DeWitt. Now, if this is the same Elizabeth from Bioshock Infinite, of course she would say that because she knows that he's Comstock. He is the one that will bring ruin to the world, that is going to become a tyrant and an evil person and destroy it for his own personal gain. It makes sense. Why wouldn't it? So when you really honestly think about it, is that Booker and Comstock are always one and the same. So him saying that he's always Comstock is true in a way, but he's also not always Comstock. So you really got to think about it. Is Booker DeWitt a bad guy? Possibly. He does become some great villain later on in his future that pretty much will set ruin to New York and set it aflames with his technology, saying the world is not ready for what is to come. Now, I myself love this game. I loved Bioshock Infinite. I love Bioshock 1. Bioshock 2, however, I've never played. Now, before you guys go and destroy me on that, saying, how could you do that? Bioshock 2 never really appeased to me. I had it, I bought it the day it came out. I just never played it. My roommate played it, and he didn't say it was very good. Now, I can't always take my roommate's opinion, because his opinion is different than my own. But at the same time, you gotta think about it. Is it really worth it when it's not even following the storyline of Rapture? It's a completely different storyline, so to speak. And Bioshock Infinite, as it is a different story as well, but it brings you back into Rapture with its DLC patches, which makes it really, really good. Now, again, a lot of people didn't like this because it was so short. It's a two-parter, and you figure for $15, whether it be on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, kind of expensive for a game that's probably you could beat in an hour. Not to mention you don't even get the full storyline, of course, and the fact is that there's a part 2, which probably will cost $15 as well. So you're probably paying $30 for a game that's worth, I don't know, 2 hours worth. Now, if you want to buy it, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. But Barely Let's See, in my opinion, was a very good storyline. It makes it a little interesting, get more of the background of Comstock, so to speak, and see what he's all about. But if you really want to wait it out, wait for the Game of the Year edition. It will probably come out next year for Xbox and PlayStation 3, or PlayStation 4, or Xbox One. I don't even know right now. But in the meantime, it's a very, very good story. In my opinion, at least. You guys can play it. Tell me what you think. See if you guys like it. But in the meantime, I'm Kevin. That was your review of Bioshock Barely Let's See Part 1. Stay tuned for my next review, which I'll be doing shortly. Have a nice one, guys. Remember to subscribe to my channel, like it. Check me out. I'll be doing some reviews with Near Dojo later on. I'll be linking their thing as well as they linked mine. We just did currently the Doctor Who review of the Doctor Who movie. Check it out.